Tonight's episode of the 31st Lap Podcast is brought to you by DirtTrackDigest.com. If it's on dirt, it's on Dirt Track Digest.
This is the 31st Lap Podcast, recorded live in the studios of FingerLakes1.com in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now, your hosts, Chris Marquardt.
And good afternoon. Welcome to episode number 193 of the 31st Lap. Going to be catching up with Dan Wiesner here in just 1 second. Actually, was getting him on the phone just as I was opening the show. So, going to be looking forward to a conversation with him about his plans for the 2016 season. We've already got some racing action that has gone into the books this year. We saw Rex King Jr. opening the Modified Tour with a win in the Chiller Thriller over at Mercer Raceway Park. They're getting ready for their regular season to start on Saturday. We've got more action planned for the opener at the Hard Clay Open at Orange County Fair Speedway over in Middletown. We're going to be talking with John Balmus about some of that upcoming action. And at those locations, Stu Friesen picking up a win over the weekend. We've also got and I'm blanking on it now. It was the 60 over race. I'm blanking on who picked up the win in that. But we're going to be getting into all that stuff here in just a little bit with John Balmus. We talked with him here in about a half hour or so. But first, before we do that, we're going to be catching up with Dan Wiesner for a little bit here. Dan, man, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. What do we got planned for this year? I was looking through. You know, we're right around the corner from the season starting. Canada was supposed to be opening up this weekend. Everybody getting basically a 2-week break from that with the opening weekend moved ahead and a practice session being set for April the 9th after Jeremy deciding not to open on the 2nd of April. How does that change your preseason plans, and what are you looking for in the coming season?
Well, our main plan is to just mainly concentrate on Canandaigua. We'll probably run a few wheel shows, and we're going to take the trip out to Eldora. And I guess anything extra after that would just be a bonus. You know, we like to hit some big shows locally, maybe, you know, see if Weed Sports got a show, you know, maybe go out there. But basically, you know, try to really concentrate on Canandaigua with all the competition that's going to be there and see what we can do there.
It's going to be a busy season at Canandaigua, I believe. You know, the roster looks like it's shaping up pretty well. I'm excited about some of the drivers that are coming to the track now. How excited are you for your opportunity to run against these guys again?
Well, Tom Mayer and Bruce Batesel, you know, they gave me an opportunity to drive for them last year, and it's always, you know, running Canandaigua for, you know, almost 20 years now. It's always been, you know, a goal to run, you know, with Steve Payne and Alan and, you know, the guys that I watched as I progressed through the ranks or as a kid as well, you know. So, you know, last year, you know, it was our first full season. We've upgraded our car and got motors rebuilt, and I think we're on track to really have a successful year. You know, we're going to just kind of keep consistent and, you know, I think we have everything we need to, you know, do as well as we can, and I think that's all you could ask for.
Last year being your first year, you talked about upgrades to the car. What did you have for a car last year that you needed to turn around and upgrade this year?
Well, we had a 2012 Bicknell, you know, which was a good car. It just was missing some of the options, you know, that a lot of guys, you know, were running to try to keep up. You know, the rubber floor, you know, the rack was different. I think we had a driver back car. You know, just a few things that'll make the car, you know, this one has, you know, probably a few less races on it, you know, and I don't think the car that we had too many races on it before, but I think the rubber floor and the split rack is kind of a, you know, what you need to compete. And I think the rubber floor is kind of the biggest deal. You in the frame on the big block, of course, some guy, I think, I kind of like them newer, but I don't know, you ask different people, you get different opinions. I tend to try and keep the less races on them, the better, but it just keeps the frame consistent, the shocks, everything else, up, where they need to be. And so, we upgraded to a car that's got just some minor races on it, and I think it's a great start to the year. We got motors out from Indiana. Tom and Bruce had those up to date. So, like I said, the biggest thing I'm excited for is to have everything in line and be competitive. I mean, we got, all the. I mean, I think the roster is almost the best of the best. I think it's going to run Canandaigua. So, I guess we'll see where we can compete and what level. I just know it's not an equipment issue at this point. So it's just going to be, the way what we can do and try to catch. I wouldn't say catch up, but I guess we'll see where we'll place a couple weeks. But the break was kind of good. Kind of gives us another week or so to get aligned with. Extra stuff that you can do, There's always something, you never get a break.
Is the maintenance...
kind of give us a little breathing room. And
is the maintenance and preparation more intense than you expected it to be, moving from the Sportsman division to the Modifieds?
Well, I think to be honest, I think, my Sportsman program was pretty good. For the last couple of years, I did well, and I almost think it was almost kind of where the big block is. There's just more, the U-joints are not all year. Sportsman, I ran them all year. So you got more headaches there. You got to watch a lot more of the drive line with the big block stuff. Adjust the valves. Yeah, we adjusted them in the Sportsman, but, you're not turning it, 7,000-8,000, like our crate was. So for the most part, I want to say that it's kind of roughly the same, the weekly maintenance, but that stuff always tends to give you more of a hassle to watch out. We blew two drive shafts out of it last year, which weren't good, but luckily nobody got hurt or I didn't get injured, so that was kind of a positive note. It kind of stunk that they both broke, but yeah, well, you get over that and you move on to the next week. But the weekly stuff, I think, pretty similar to the same. Like I said, you just got to be more cautious on your drive line, your drivetrain stuff.
In the effort to keep a lower number of races on it, someplace like Fulton with the tour opening there, you're going to be making the trip out to Eldora. We'll get into that in a minute. Do you plan on making the tour stop when it comes through Fulton at the end of April?
Probably not at this point. Is that a Super Duty Series race at Fulton? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. That's right.
I don't believe we're going to make that race. I said the first one just at Canandaigua, we're going to stay, kind of see where we're going to, pick up where we left off, hopefully, at Canandaigua. But, we'll place with the more cars. It's hopefully, we'll find out where it is. And so probably not going to do too much traveling at first, just so we can kind of get our maintenance program consistent and, a couple of the crew guys, see how busy everybody is. Everybody's got families and stuff. So that's always an important role too. Racing is fun and it's great, but, we still have all lives outside of that. But we'd like to do as many shows and, keep everybody happy. But like I said, everybody's got to go to work on Monday. So, it kind of keeps it limited to how far and what you want to do to keep the weekly maintenance, I wouldn't say a minimal, but, just don't want to be, for me, it's an hour to go to Avon. That's where the car is. So, once I do my 40 hours a week, like everybody, I get an hour drive there, get only a few hours in the car and get home late. So,
right.
But it's worth it, to get the time and the opportunity. So, but that's why we kind of tend to be limited shows. And I like the wheels and Canandaigua. And of course I did like Syracuse, but it's unfortunate there, but we'll see how the Central Raceway is, and hopefully that's a good show. I mean, a good place. It looks pretty incredible so far, but we'll see if it opens on time.
hard to pick what direction to go with next. You got a couple different things that I wanted to ask you about that you just put on the table there. First, let's focus back on the modified and the upcoming season. And you mentioned how smooth your sportsman program was operating when you chose to make the jump up to the modifieds. That sportsman program was very successful, and you did a really good job with that. You've had a lot of accolades driving that division. So now with the move up, you had plenty of seat time in a car before you got into the modified. How much of a reset was there when you changed divisions, going from the sportsman car to the more powerful, faster, more torquey big block?
That definitely was the biggest, and as one would ever think, you're doubling, pretty much everything the sportsman has. So just the momentum and getting back on the back on the gas, and coming out of the corners. It did. It took me a little bit to get used to, and and that's kind of why we're not probably going to go too far too early, because just the transition with the new car, new motor, and me still kind of getting used to it. You say after a year, that probably should have that under my belt, but I think my learning curve is still not where it needs to be. But when you're racing against guys, 20, 30 years, I'm still, obviously, you could tell, a little behind. But we'll, like I said, we'll get there. But that's probably the biggest, like you said, the torque and the horsepower to roll back in the throttle, especially, Canandaigua, for the most part, it's been dry slick, and it's hard to grab bite. So, when you race against those guys that, have had a lot of dry slick experience, that's kind of where we struggle. That's where we like to pick it up. So we got a shock program that we worked on over the winter, and have talked and setups and stuff. So hopefully that's our biggest goal this year is at Canandaigua, if it's like it was last year, the dry slick. The couple nights it was tacky, we finished in the top 5 a couple times. So, like I said, the transition was a little bit hard on the dry slick more than the tacky. So hopefully, like I said, we can increase that and get better finishes.
You're looking at a 35 lap feature versus 20 laps or 25 laps in the sportsman car, depending on what year it was, and you're turning faster lap times. What's the duration in the feature feel like now? Does it feel like it's over in a snap? Does it feel like it's flying by?
It seems it seems, obviously it is longer, so it seems to me that sometimes I guess it depends on how your night's going. I mean, if you're doing bad, it could be a long race for 35 laps, or if you're doing good, you could have a long race because you got the adrenaline that you're doing well. So it's kind of but the first couple 35 laps went real fast because I was so trying to get on the gas. Your mind's going through so much during all the corners and the laps and the speed and the acceleration. It's, the next thing you know, the 35 laps is over. Kind of getting used to it mid-year. When we were doing good, you're trying to think that the laps are winding down, and you come under the flagger, you got halfway, and it's like, oh, I thought it was farther than the race than that. But it tends to be a little bit quicker. Once at the end of the year, once I got used to everything and wasn't concentrating on everything so much, that the 35 laps does seem pretty much about the same as the 25 to the sportsman. But some nights the laps are equal or basically almost the same. So that sense, you get your 10 extra laps. But like I said, your biggest thing is how well you're doing at that time.
Right.
So,
do you find that the modified, you're talking about, you're out there for the extra 10 laps and you got to muscle it, and you're concentrating more, and you're conscious of the cars that are around you. You've got a new set of car owners. It's your first year out there. It sounds like this car, even though you're only out there for 35 laps from the feature, is more exhausting to drive than what your sportsman was.
Yeah, I mean, my sportsman I was just so used to, for the 15 years I was at Canandaigua, 25 laps, almost all the races. It was just another Saturday night. You sit in it. It didn't feel long unless the yellows came out. But
right.
Again, like you said, with so much going on and everything was new to me, the driver style, and the sportsman too, when I sat down, you know, and a lot of people have been in the Sportsman a long time at Canandaigua, you know. You pick 10 guys that you've raced with for, you know, 5-10 years. You understand what they're going to do and kind of where they're going to go because, you know, you're used to the style, you know. Now I'm the new guy in the big block class, and, you know, I'm sure they're trying to figure out what I'm doing, and I have no idea what they're doing, even if I did watch them for 15 years, you know.
Right.
Guess I didn't pay that much attention, but
So somebody that's coming up into the modifieds, is there any transitional advice that you've learned the hard way that you wish that you would have known that would have helped make this a little bit smoother? Because I want to ask you too about something you just mentioned about running with those guys that have been doing it forever and now you're the new guy. But is there anything that if you were starting this thing over again on day one, somebody could have come along and said this to you, it would have been a eureka moment, would have made things a little bit smoother to get acclimated to?
I mean, the accelerator was the first thing, you know. I mean, but the biggest thing for me probably was my first heat race, the first time I sat in it at Canandaigua, because of my Sportsman. For the most of the time, I'm not saying most of the time, but depending on how dry slick it was, you know, you could almost go in full throttle, burp it, and you get right back on the gas, and it bogs enough, you know, and then you're just trying to pick up the horsepower from there.
Right.
On the big block, I went in turn one, I burped it, I got back on it. You know, I thought that's what everybody did. Well, no, I guess you let off a little bit more because you got so much coming out, you know, so I kind of looped it around, you know, a lesson learned to me. You know, I didn't want to wad up Matt and Gary. You know, here I'm starting in the last of the first heat and right behind Matt and Gary, you know, so I just looped it around so I didn't take anybody out. But that was probably the number one thing was, you know, going into turn one, you know, that was probably my biggest lesson learned. So, and again, you can't learn that from watching them, you know.
Right.
But, you know, and I see my Sportsman car out there against those guys, and not saying that it competed, but I'm guessing, oh, you know, it's out there, you know. But yeah, going into turn one in the heat, you kind of ease up, and then you get back on the gas, kind of roll into it. Of course, if it's dry slick, but Sportsman just kind of went in there, and just it was after a while, it was just a routine, you know. But that was probably my biggest lesson so far. Plus, you know, all the other things to be aware of that were new, you know.
You're a pretty clean racer. You know, you're a respectful guy. If you're having problems, you're trying to stay out of everybody else's way. And you just mentioned there about how you looped the car. You were starting last in the heat race behind some of those other guys. Gary Tompkins, Matt Shepard. You don't want to take them out of their night. They've been doing it for a long time. Consciously in your mind, are you trying to stay out of everybody else's way at the same time while you get your laps in so that you're not a problem for them? Or are you trying to focus solely on what you're doing inside that race car so that you can get better week after week?
You know, I think it's kind of the point at the race of kind of what you're saying. You know, in the beginning of the race, I feel, you know, you go out there, if you got a good handling car, you know, I feel like we can do just as well. And, you know, if we could pass Steve or we could pass Matt or Gary, like, we would try, you know, which is the best. But then sometimes if things aren't going well, you know, and the car's not, I overheated the tire and things weren't going well. It's you kind of know that. I mean, you know if you're doing good or not, you know. And at that point, you know, if you're 10th, 11th, 12th, you know, and you just know things aren't going, and it doesn't take much, you know, if you're running 12th, you know, them guys are gonna, you know, those guys are gonna catch you. So that was one of the biggest things was to kind of start out good and do the best you can and stay consistent, you know. But again, not take anybody out, you know. And then if you were doing, you know, mid-pack or whatever, just to, you know, if you got the mover, you know, I don't want to mess up anybody's race. So, plus you don't want to mess up anybody's equipment too. You know, I don't want a wrecked race car for 15th, you know, and I don't think anybody else does. But I don't want to take Matt out or Justin or, you know, or Steve or Gary or Alan that's running there, you know. Don't want them mad at me. But I just, you know, like I said, kind of basing on my new experience and putting it all together, you know, to try to do the best I can and pick up, you know, try and follow Matt or Gary, and see what they're doing versus what I'm doing. So there's a lot that goes into the point of the race and what you can do and how the track is. And so, but again, more or less, you try to play 50-50, I guess. Like you said, you don't want to take anybody out, but you want to do the best you can. So
it seems like a lot of times when we see new drivers coming up into a particular division, they come into that mindset, well, I just don't want to mess anybody up. I don't want to tear up anybody else's equipment. And in turn, that makes a more hazardous situation because instead of holding their line, they start darting around erratically trying to make sure that they are out of the way of everybody else. Have you caught yourself slipping into that once in a while, or have you been able to translate that experience you got from the sportsman division and be able to know enough to where, look, I just want to hold my line and let them decide how they want to go around me if they need to?
I just stay consistent lines. If you're, the worst thing you could do when you're by anybody is just randomly change, a line that you're going into, in traffic or out of traffic. I mean, sometimes if you're doing good, you can make different moves and they all work. But, consistent lines was what I was trying for. And then, like you said, if somebody's trying to get by you, you're not just going from the bottom to the top to the bottom. But it does kind of give you that, like you were talking, you are racing with them guys that I've watched for years. So maybe it kind of sets in that, you don't want to mess up those guys because, a lot of, some of them guys are doing it for a living. So,
right.
It's, I'm not saying that we're not out there to win and do the best we can, but, I don't want to mess up my own car. I don't want to mess up anybody else's, but you do have that in you a little bit, and I try to say, yep, I've had, almost 15 years of modified experience, but I think just a consistent line is really it. Don't go overdo it. Don't get over your head, and I knew, I wasn't going to light the world on fire. I knew that with a new team, with Monty and Scott and Bruce and Tom and everybody kind of getting together, we had a learning curve. So, my biggest thing is can't take care of my learning curve if I'm, the first mile of the race,
Right.
So consistent laps were definitely what we were aiming for.
How's that relationship grown? I mean, you guys are back again for another year. You're making the trips to Avon. Obviously, they were happy with what the first year brought. You've got a new car underneath you. How is the getting to know you process? Everybody's obviously getting along pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's gotten stronger as the time's gone on. At the kind of did a couple races the end of 2014, and then we did the whole salad year in 15. And they've kind of asked me to drive for them. So, and in my terms, I already sold all my sportsman stuff, and again, I was honored to get asked to race for them. And like I said, we've grown together. Tom's put trust in me to make decisions on what we could use and what things we don't need anymore. And so I think we got a great relationship. I don't see any problems. We're looking to have a great time in 2016. Because the majority of it's fun. You're not. We're out there for the fun. Really, that's basically all you could really say. Or Saturday night we choose to be at Canandaigua, and if it wasn't fun, then probably we ought to find something else to do because there's other things that you could be doing. But we choose at Canandaigua, and hopefully everything there goes well. And we'll just go and do the best we can. And like I said, it's a friendship, and that's the way we treat it. And we all go there, give it our best effort, and hopefully I can do what they're hoping to expect from me, and that's all we can do.
Was your goal always to get into a big block?
It always has been.
Yeah.
Ever since watching Bob McCready, when I was a kid, and I remember, I think maybe this year Canandaigua is going to be the way it was when I was a kid. When
Right.
Pat Ward was there, and Decker, and Payne, and Danny, and Alan, and Bob, and Fuller. Like, seems like most of them, that are still running are coming back. So, it's always been a goal to run. So it was kind of a no-brainer when they asked.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've tried to get, I've tried to get in a big block before, but just never had all it took to kind of put it all together. And I think majority of that is financial. You know what I mean? Most of it's the financial aspect. It's not the team or it's not the effort put in. It's just most guys. It's just the financial part of it.
So, given that you're here now, what's the goal for this year? You've made it to the modifieds now. It's been a long process to get there. Obviously, you're not going to let it go, and you're going to make the most of this thing. You talked about you want to have fun, but I'm sure that picking up a win would be something that's pretty high up there on the to-do list.
Absolutely. That's our goal, is to get a win this year. We were close last year. There was a restart. Got a little shuffle, kind of pulled the pack together, but we were fighting for the lead. So, like I said, with the upgraded car and the motors redone and some more experience, we're aiming for a win. I go there competitive. Mm-hmm. I go there as competitive as we can be, and I just want to bring it home in one piece and be competitive. That's our goal. It's just we don't want to sit there and wreck every week, but we want to be competitive too. So when I put on the helmet, I don't think I'm any different from Matt besides his experience, in the big block himself. But
sure.
He's going for the win. I'm going for the win. It's just, the learning curve for me. But I try to set my goal standard or high, and I think my team doesn't expect, that we can't do it. But I don't think they'll be if we don't get one. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed. We're just, like I said, we're there for the fun, but. Anybody that put the helmets on got a competitive edge, Mm-hmm. So, and I don't want to go out there and just turn laps and be just kind of like I wouldn't say a field filler, but I don't, I got the edge to go and try and do the best you can,
How, how excited are you to be going to Eldora with a big block?
Well. If he had asked me that a while ago, I would have never thought I'd ever be going out there. But we decided as a family to go out and watch. That's kind of how that came about, was to go out and watch and partake in sitting in the stands. And, I mentioned it to Tom that we were going out, and Bruce, and, Tom said, take the car, race. So the guys are excited to go out. I think it's going to be a great experience. It'll be my farthest travel to a race, but, to race at, Eldora, I'm pretty excited. The time can't come soon enough, but hopefully by that time we'll get the car all dialed in and we'll be competitive out there. I'm gathering it'll be a big turnout.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
you're running in conjunction with NASCAR's Truck Series out there. And then right after that, the tour is going to be going to Sharon Speedway. So you got the chance to maybe run a couple times on the way through Ohio.
Yeah, we had discussed going to Sharon, but I think with the race ending on Wednesday and trying to concentrate on Canandaigua, we're probably going to skip the Sharon Speedway to get home to go through the car and get set back up for Canandaigua, because our sponsor, my sponsor, Monroe Wheelchair, we want to make sure that we're at the Canandaigua race, and we do have another car, that hopefully will be ready, but kind of the work schedule that I have too has kind of put us in a little bit of a pinch to run Sharon, but it's an interesting when you run a track that you don't know, because I really don't have any setup stuff. I'm hoping just to kind of go with a base Canandaigua setup and see how it goes. But of course, talking to some more people is what I'll have to do to make sure we go there relatively close.
Sure. You're talking about that race with the restart and how the team isn't necessarily going to say it's time to hang it up if you don't get a win this year. At the same time, how many times have you reran those final laps for that final restart where you were right there, nip and tuck for a chance of pulling down a win in your first year in a modified?
Well, I get reminded of it quite a bit because my son got the video and he plays it like almost every week. So I get to relive it every time he puts it in the DVD player and basically watches my brother-in-law, after the restart beat me. But it shows how good we came from the beginning of the year. We went to Lead Sport, and the first time I had ever ran the year before, and didn't make the race, and a lot of learning curve. So, to go from that and packing it up, going home to, fighting for the lead at Canandaigua, it's shown a big improvement just in that short amount of time. So the biggest thing, like I said, we're going to hopefully start where we left off and see if we can't add more to what we had.
Where to from here? I mean, we've talked about the goals for the upcoming year and, getting able to get out and run out of state a little bit. You've always wanted to get up into a modified. Is there goals beyond this? Do you guys project in a couple of years that you might be able to get the resources around so that you can run the full tour? Or are you looking to even try other divisions?
I guess we'll have to see how everything, goes. Any other goal that I would have this year would just be to, when you travel outside, with Central Raceway Park, that's going to be a new track to us and, of course, with everybody. So
even playing field there.
Try and do good there and, headed out to Eldora. And, if the year goes well, maybe we'll travel at the end of the year. Of course, there's always North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put it on the book yet. We'll just see, what Tom's idea is and how our year goes and, and see if I got, time for work and things like that. So, but, like I said, we do it for fun. I'd like to maybe run some series, or some other series races, but it'd probably be mostly local. I'm
not talking this year.
I don't know if we'd ever get into the full series, without, the help is the biggest thing with the series, as you could probably aware with everybody that runs it. To have full-time dedicated people to run that. That's a lot to ask. So
that's what I'm saying. Is beyond 2016, we've covered pretty thoroughly what we want to do this year. But looking ahead, as this relationship grows and your skills improve, I was just asking if perhaps that tour or even jumping into trying other divisions. This was always something that you wanted to get your hands on, and it's very reasonable to think that you're going to not want to do anything beyond what you're doing. You've got your taste of modifieds now. This is where you want to be. You're destined to be here, and this is where you want to stay. Who knows, what the future may hold. 15 years from now, who knows, right?
Exactly. I guess time will see where it takes us, but right now we're content with a big block, and like you said, in years to come, maybe we would run the series, or I'd also like to try a late model sometime. It's kind of on my list to try. This World of Outlaw sprints interest me, but I don't know. I guess I would try one, but the weekly. I tried a mini sprint. I had, just with a little practice. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of, people like their pure stock full fender cars. I'm kind of a dirt modified guy, but I'd like to try the late model. But of course, I would like to try a sprint car, just to have the downforce and to see how that is too. But like I said, I guess time will tell and see what we can do, and grow as a team.
That sounds pretty good to me. Is there anybody that you wanted to make mention of, or any final thoughts that you wanted to make sure that we covered? I know we touched on a lot here in the time that we've been chatting.
Yeah, I just, like I said, most of it I gotta thank, Tom and Bruce, Monty, Scott, that helps me out, the crew guys, and DJ. DJ's son Josh helps us. My dad, and of course, all of our sponsors. We can't do it without Monroe Wheelchair, East Avon Cars, Batzel's Automotive, and Hot Rods. Got Fox Shocks this year. Just without everybody, it'd be tough to do. So, those are the main that really keep us going and support me. But the support from my wife and two kids that I have is, she's really helped kind of keep me going, because there's times where it gets too much during the summer, and she kind of keeps me going. So, without them, and it's kind of tough to do. So I guess those are the people I really got to thank, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Before we wrap up here, you already noticing the difference in the shock program moving up with Fox?
Well, I got them this year, so I guess we'll see how they are compared to the ones that I had last year. Just fast line shocks or Bruce Harwick, with Fox and Pat from Fox have, they've helped me out from the Bilstein to now the shock, the Fox. So I've had a relationship with those two guys for 15 years. So Bruce went full time to Fox. Now that Pat's kind of started that whole the Fox racing. And they're kind of friends with mine. They're friends with me, and Bruce does everything he can. So to call up and get the support, with the Fox shocks and what we had with the Bilstein, I think it's a no-brainer. So, I don't think you could ask for any other shock guys than those two guys that are always a phone call away. That's always helped me out. So, I think it was a no-brainer to switch over and keep the support that I had.
That's awesome. Well, Danny, I want to make sure that we keep in touch through the course of the season. Obviously, we'll be watching everything that happens with the car this year over there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park, and keep in touch with everything, and certainly wish you guys the best as you move through 2016.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, man, we'll catch up with you real soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Dan. We'll see you later.
Sure.
There goes Dan Wiesner getting ready for the 2016 season over at Canandaigua Motorsports Park, moving up there for his sophomore season, which has been a lot of fun to watch him move up through. Had a real successful sportsman program before he made that change, and right out there in his first season, he was in the mix battling for a win in that modified ranks. We're going to go ahead and get John Baumus on the phone and talk with him a little bit about what has happened in the last week or so. So give me a minute to grab a hold of John. Most entertaining part of the show, watching me talk on the phone. Getting John here momentarily. Hey, let me put you in.
Okay.
Just wrapped up with a great conversation with Dan Wiesner. We talked for about a half hour or so about moving up into the modifieds and his transition year last year, coming out of the sportsman and running the full season at Canandaigua in the modified division, and now getting ready for a second year. And sounds like those guys are going to be going to Eldora for the first time, which is kind of cool. That one of our local teams that's new on the modified scene, for at least for Canandaigua Motorsports Park, is making that transition up to Eldora and making that trip. But a lot of racing action here this weekend coming up. Obviously, the big one that everybody's been focused on, the Hard Clay Open. Brett Deo's Short Track Super Series going to be opening over there at Middletown. You going to make the trip?
No.
Didn't even have to think about it.
I am not going to Orange County. I am going racing Saturday, but I'm not going to Orange County.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Lanco.
Definitely going, huh?
ARDC opener down in PA.
You and your ARDC stuff. You can't pass on it.
Nope, I've never been to Lanco. I've been wanting to get there for several years, so this is a perfect opportunity to go. There ain't really nothing going on. Most people know me fairly well know I'm not an Orange County fan, so I have zero desire to go there.
You keep up on any action that got in the books here in the last week or so?
A little bit.
That 60 over special that we talked about last time we were together, the 4th annual event, Dominic Buffalino coming away with a win.
Yep, that was good for Dominic. He's a good dude. I was glad to see that he picked that win up on over the weekend at Bridgeport. That was pretty cool.
Yes, very cool. Bobby Varon, Ryan Watt, Ryan Godown, former winners of that event, and he had some pretty good company behind him at the finish line.
Yes.
Find it here. Ryan Godown was right there in his back bumper. He had to contend with Jimmy Horton early on, who sat on the pole. Matt Shepard had some bad luck there. Ended up down there in 23rd. Craig Von Doren was in the field. Anthony Perego. Jeff Strunk was there. Going back down through the podium finishers, Rick Lawback was 3rd. Stu Friesen was 4th. Ryan Watt 5th. Brett Hearn 7th. Jamie Mills. Doug Manmiller 10th. Billy Pouch Jr. 11th. He had a handful to pick up that win.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Talking about Stu Friesen. Stu Friesen picked up a win on, was it Sunday that he got the win and it was Georgetown, right?
Oh, Friday night.
Friday night. I'm sorry, Friday. He ended up winning in Georgetown, Delaware, and then turned around and ran real strong in the 60 over race in New Jersey. So good win for him. And Rex King picked up the Chiller Thriller feature at Mercer.
Yep.
Which is a good win for him.
He passed Eric Rudolph for the lead late in the race.
Eric Rudolph. I mean, that kid, he's been running so strong in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm excited to see that he's going to be a regular on the Big Block Tour this year.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad he's back as a full-time driver, and I'm looking forward to him being a part of it, as well as a bunch of other guys. It's going to be an exciting season, that's for sure.
You so you're choosing ARDC over going to Mercer?
Orange County, you mean?
No, Mercer. Mercer's running Saturday too.
Oh. Yeah, because they now are going to their weekly programs, right?
Yeah, they're already into weekly racing now.
Well, actually, I kind of chose it over going to Grandview, to be honest with you, because Grandview opens up Saturday night as well.
That's right.
Of course, me being a Dwayne Howard fan, I contemplated on going to Grandview instead to see their opener, but I decided I want to do the Lanco deal with ARDC, because again, I've been wanting to get the Lanco as a micro track for several years, and for whatever reason, one thing leads to another. I haven't gotten there yet, so I figure this is the perfect opportunity. Weather looks like it's going to be okay, and it's the time of year where there's nothing going on Saturdays at this point, other than maybe a couple of tracks. But I figure this is a good time to go, because I don't know, once the season gets going full bore, it's hard to do it gets a little harder to do that kind of stuff. So I figured that was the time to go and check it off my new track list.
You get to check one off off the new track list. Where is Lanco in relation to you? How far of a drive is that?
It's actually not far from Reading, which is the area, the region that Grandview is in. Lanco, it's like right off of, if I'm not mistaken, it's like right near 78, not far from 81, where they kind of come together. If I remember correctly, looking at the map the other day, looking at directions to see how far it was going to be. It's not a bad trip. It's not as far as Harrisburg. It's down in like the Hershey, Reading area, I believe, somewhere in the region. So
I see.
That will be my plans on Saturday. Tomorrow, I was contemplating on going to Big Diamond for their opener.
Mm-hmm.
Still not sure what I'm doing yet. I know the weather was going to... I looked a couple days ago at the weather report. It looked like it was a little iffy for Friday. I'll check it again tomorrow morning and see where we stand and make a decision. But I'm at least doing Saturday anyway.
Right. Greg Hadnut's off at full pace. He got another win over the weekend. Beat out Brent Marks to win at Williams Grove. I'm sure Mike's excited about that.
Oh yeah, he was. I believe he was there again Friday night at the Grove. So yeah, Hadnut's had a nice little start to the year. He's been pretty much the dominant car so far, I think, in PA, and in those PA posse circles, he's got like.
And you got to start with momentum. I mean, that's the thing, is you got to start. I mean, think about all the headaches that he doesn't have compared to some other sprint car guys that have already gotten on their lids, already broke stuff, already hurt motors, whatever. That momentum that he's got going right now is key, because he doesn't have to spend nearly as much time fixing junk. He doesn't have to worry about, contemplating other options. You just got to keep on that maintenance schedule, and everything keeps on rolling. And that momentum it's been translated to good finishes. On the topic of some good finishes, you see Casey Kane got a win at Lincoln?
Yes, he won Lincoln on Saturday. He kind of struggled a little bit at the Grove. He really didn't look too good on Friday night at the Grove. He did make the feature at the Grove on Friday, and he did manage to finish, I think, like 15th, but he did get lapped in the feature. But he made up for it on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, not too bad of a finish there. Brian Monteith rolled from 14th to 3rd at that race as well, I believe.
Yeah, Monteith is really good at.
Another guy that we were talking about momentum and getting a good start. He's looking like he's starting to round into midseason form already. So you're heading to Pennsylvania for ARDC. Are you going to be doing anything when the local tracks start opening? I know we got some practice sessions coming up at Canandaigua here in a week. They're not going to be opening up this weekend. Instead, they're going to do practice on April 9th with the plan of doing their 2-day opener on the 4th and, on the 14th and the 15th. Friday and Saturday 2-day show. Black Rock opening the week after that. And then the week after that, so it would be the 22nd, 23rd, the last weekend of the month is Fulton Speedway's opener with the Super Dirt Car Series.
Yep. As far as local stuff, the first couple weeks of April, it's hard to say because most of our tracks around here aren't going to be open yet.
Right.
This is the second half of April. So the first half of April, it's kind of nice to be able to venture out and maybe get to the couple of tracks in PA while, before the tracks in our area open up. So who knows what I'll do, the weekend after this. But it's an option. Maybe getting to, like I said, I know Grandview opens up this Saturday, so maybe I'll go down there next Saturday or something like that. Because I don't, once we get rolling around here, it gets a little harder to go down there.
Right.
And do some of that stuff. So I may look at going to Grandview the week after or something. Who knows?
Just to make sure I understand, right? Your only commitment this season is with the Super Dirt Car Series, right? You don't have a weekly track at this point?
No, I'm not working on any tracks. So that kind of has left my Saturdays free to, pretty much do whatever I want. If it's stay home and have a fire and drink beer in the backyard, or stay close to home and go to Fulton Speedway, or if I want to take off some Saturdays in, July and go to Grandview to watch Dwayne race or whatever, I have that option or ability to do that this year, whereas the last couple of years I haven't been able to do that because of my commitments working in Fonda Speedway. So, yeah, no Fonda, no weekly stuff this season. It's just pretty much working for World Racing Group / Dirt Car on the Big Block Series, the whole Big Block Series, and then I will be probably working some of the Eastern outlaw sprint shows, like when they come to, say the Grove or Lincoln or whatever. Some of these Eastern region races that don't conflict with my Super Dirt Car Series schedule, I will probably be helping out some of those guys as well. So, that should, getting some extra time in with World Racing Group should make up for the lack of not working on Saturdays at Fonda this year. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. Should be a busy season once it gets rolling. I'm just anxious and ready to get it rolling. It's forever. Volusia seems like it was months ago.
Yeah, it's 6 weeks, wasn't it? Not even?
Something like that. Yeah.
Not even? Yep. It's
like I got home like February, I don't know, 21st,
21st,
or something like that. Whatever the day was. But it seems like it was like 6 months ago. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home.
Yep, it is. It's right around the corner.
Getting anxious.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had a great talk with Danny Wiesner.
Yeah, you said
earlier,
did you say he's made plans? He's going to Eldora?
Yeah, they're taking
that Eldora race that we have coming up in July is going to be something. I'm hearing a lot of buzz from the racers about that show, and I think we're going to get a real nice field of modifieds for that gig, because you're going to see a lot of unusuals, guys you don't typically see it. The guys that maybe run their local track series race. Like a Wiesner, he'll go, obviously, Canandaigua series race. You might see him at Rolling Wheels, perhaps Weedsport. But usually it's the local stuff, you know?
Right.
It's cool to see guys like him hearing rumors that they're going to go to the Eldora race. I know I heard over the winter one of the Fonda Speedway regulars, Justin Bowler, who basically sticks to Fonda, maybe Glenridge, pretty much sticks local, close to home for weekly racing, and that's about it. I've been hearing rumors that they're making the trip to Eldora too. I think for most of the little guys, you know, the little teams, it's just the idea of getting to race at Eldora Speedway is really, you know, it's an attraction. It's getting people really excited to want to go check it out, especially because it's on a NASCAR weekend race, or not really a weekend, but you know, it's associated with a NASCAR race, and that's really been a big boost and a big attraction. People want to go do it. People want to see it. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Dan was just going to go out and watch. He was taking his family out, and he was just going to go check out the race. And the team owners, the team primary, said, "Well, why don't you take the car with you if they're running the modifieds?"
Nice.
So, why not take the car?
Yeah, exactly. If they're gonna, you know, if the owner says do it, then hell yeah, you hop in there and go.
Yep.
And
Especially
if you're gonna go, check it out anyway.
Right. And we've got the modifieds there Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday they go to Sharon. Now Dan said with his work schedule, he's probably it's unlikely
He'll go home.
that'll be able to go to Sharon, but he wants to. It's something that he wants to try and find a way to shoehorn in. But again, you don't want to tear up the car.
Yeah.
Because if they only have one car together at that point,
and then they got a race on Saturday.
Right. You got to thrash to get the thing together. And in the shop, you know, he lives here locally, and the shop's an hour away in Avon. So he's got an hour ride in the car before he even can get into the car.
Yep.
Then he works for however many hours, and then he still has an hour drive home, and he's got to be together for work the next day. So,
right.
You know, probably erring on the side of caution, not a bad move, but nonetheless, I mean, if you're there, you got the chance to make that cut through Ohio and do Eldora and Sharon. Why not try it if you've got the chance? You know, he's doing it. I mean, he's getting to live the dream that running a big block modified in one of the stoutest weekly fields out there at Canandaigua Motorsports Park, and now he's going to be able to take that same car and go run Eldora.
Cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I think you'll probably see that same scenario with a lot of, you know, like the little teams, like I mentioned. Like I said, I've heard rumors that Justin Bowler is going to go to Eldora, and I would take a guess that, you know, a lot of the guys that don't normally run series races, except maybe their local track, and who will make the trek to Eldora, I'm thinking probably going to be under the same premise. They're just going to go to Eldora, and sure, they'd like to hit Sharon on their way home, but, you know, like you said, you got an 8-10 hour trip or whatever back home, and you got a race on Saturday, you know, and you only got the one car or whatever because you're a smaller team and stuff. So I imagine you'll see some of the guys who do show up at Eldora that don't show up at Sharon, but I'm sure you'll get a couple. I'm sure you'll get a handful of guys that will run both tracks that week. You know, again, because you're already out there. If you plan accordingly, you know, you can do it. I'm looking forward to both races. I've been to both tracks, but I've not seen modifieds at either track, so I'm looking forward to it. The couple times I've been to Eldora was for one time was for the Dream, the late model weekend, and then another time was for winged and wingless sprint cars. Mm-hmm. It'll be my first time seeing our modifieds at Eldora, and the couple times I've been to Sharon was for the All-Star Ohio Sprint Week deal. So again, I've never seen our modifieds there, even though they run them weekly.
Right.
I'm looking forward to to those two shows. I really have that week kind of penciled in. I'm looking forward to it.
Do you think that we're going to see more non-tour regulars go to Eldora versus going to Charlotte?
I think it'll be similar. I think you'll see different. Perhaps some of them will be different teams, drivers.
Similar car counts, different teams. Is that what
but I think it'll be similar car counts.
Yeah.
And it's the attraction of, hey, I get a chance to go race at Eldora. I got to take it,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a similar deal, similar to Volusia as well. Like, we see teams at Volusia every year. We really don't see a lot during the course of the rest of the year.
Right.
The regular season. But they love to go that whole thing of the vacationing at Florida and go, down there for a week or two during speed weeks. And a lot of guys just love to race during that week. And we may not see them again until that one day that we're at their local track, wherever they happen to be from,
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to, I think the Eldora deal is going to be real similar to that. It'll be a one-off for some of these guys that just want to go race at Eldora to have the opportunity to race at that speedway because it's so legendary. It's, if not the most famous dirt track in the world, it's probably, if it's not the most famous, it's second to Knoxville. You know what I mean?
Right on.
It's the top two. Those two are, to me, are my personal opinion, are the two most famous dirt tracks in the world. So to have the opportunity to go race there, it's something that every modified guy in our region would love to say they did it once.
Yep.
Because it's been so many years since our series has gone to race at Eldora that it a lot of these guys racing now weren't maybe around then. Obviously, a lot of them were.
Sure.
You got your Brett Hearn and your Danny Johnson and your
Billy Decker, Pat Ward.
Your Pat Ward. Yeah, those guys that have been doing this a long time, they've been to Eldora in our cars. They've done it. But there's a lot of guys who weren't racing then.
Right.
Or if they were, they weren't maybe in a position to go to Eldora, So, for those people that get the chance to go there and it's their first time, it's a big thrill. For me, it's a big thrill. I've never seen our cars there, even though I've been to the track a couple times. So I'm definitely got that whole week circled on the calendar. I can't wait. Not that I don't want the middle of July to get here that fast, but I'm super excited about going. Once we get to Eldora, that's when we're in the meat heart of our schedule. Because like you said earlier, the series kicks off April 30th at Fulton, and then we got almost a 2-month break. We don't race again until June 22nd at the Grove. But once that day comes, June 22nd, we're flat out from there till about the middle of August.
Right.
So we got about a 2-month stretch where majority of our races take place. We're gonna once June 22nd comes around, we're gonna be full bore. We got that Eldora race on the 22nd, which is like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then maybe it's a Thursday. I can't even remember now. But then we turn right around like that Sunday and we go to Cornwall, which is I want to say the 26th or something.
Right.
And then we go from Cornwall. That's Sunday. Monday we're off, and then Tuesday I think we're at. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I want to say Malta's 2 days after Cornwall.
Yeah, that's the end of.
And 2 days after that is Canandaigua. And it's just boom, boom, boom. Once we get rolling, we're rolling.
You on the topic of rolling and staying on the road, Rocky Warner. I saw an article written by Cameron Proud. Did a real nice job with an interview with Rocky Warner, and it looks like he's doing quite a bit better after he had that chest aneurysm in January. And projections are that he at some point will be back in a car this year. Well,
it won't surprise me if Rocky does climb in a car. I think I'm sure he's realized this by now. I did get a chance to see him at the car show at the fairgrounds a couple weeks back, and he did look. He looked good. I immediately noticed that he definitely obviously lost weight. I mean, that's major surgery that he had to go through. So it's not a surprise to see that he lost weight while he was in the hospital and all that. But
right.
he looked good. He seemed to be getting around okay. I could tell he was getting around not like himself. He was getting around gingerly, but again, that's to be expected.
Sure.
What he went through, he's lucky to be standing there.
Lucky to be getting around.
Yeah. So I was just glad to see him up and around, and so yeah, it wouldn't surprise me obviously to see him in a car at some point. But I think one thing that he did take out of this that he realized is that I think his health and life has to come first before the racing side of it. Obviously, we're all hardcore racers. You never want to be away from the thing you love for very long. But in a moment like that, you got to realize that your health has to come first. And I think that he understands that. So, I don't think I don't see him getting in a car until he's 100% and knows that he's okay. You know what I mean?
I do. I've got a comment that just came in here from Brian Sipple, who wants your opinion on Canandaigua Motorsports Park. This year there's almost 100 wins combined in 2015 among people that have committed to be regulars at Canandaigua Motorsports Park for 2016. Any thoughts?
We're talking about modifieds here, I assume.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, I know you're a big fan of the field fillers in Canandaigua, and there are a bunch of nobodies over there. Any thoughts?
I mean, they're gonna. Let's face it. The last few years, they've had a strong field over there. Obviously, with the addition of getting Fuller last year as a full-time driver at Canandaigua, that certainly helped things over there.
Mm-hmm.
Made the field just that much stronger. So you'll have Shepard, Fuller's back. Obviously, Alan Johnson, Steve Payne, Justin Hare's the normal weekly regulars that are there. I believe Matty Williamson will be there on Saturdays to get his home track points because he is running the Super Dirt Car Series. So obviously you need a home big block track.
Yep.
Same with I'm not sure what. Honestly, I was going to say same with Eric Rudolph, but quite frankly, I'm not even sure where he plans to get his points. I'm assuming it's Canandaigua, but I'm not even 100% on that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Eric running the series full time, he's going to want to get home track points somewhere, but he's in that same boat that Matty Williamson is in, being from the Buffalo region. Merrittville and Ransomville are 358 tracks, so they don't get big block points there.
Right.
So they need to go to a big block track. So
Gotta
I'm guessing that Eric Rudolph will be at Canandaigua on Saturdays, but don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm.
So you throw guys like that in the mix. Vic Coffey, I'm guessing his plans are to be there weekly, or at least probably both shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're certainly going to have a good, stellar field of cars. I know the track posted on their website a couple weeks back about Billy Decker going there on Saturdays, but we still haven't heard what he's driving. It still hasn't been announced what he's driving.
I thought he was driving Mike Payne's car.
He's driving. See, when that announcement came out at the beginning of the winter, Billy and Mike Payne's car, it was stated strictly for the series, not weekly stuff. So all winter long, Billy Decker had been looking for a weekly ride to get his home track points. And nothing has come along. And then when Canandaigua posted on their Facebook page that Decker was going to be a regular there, everybody just kind of speculated, thinking that Mike Payne maybe changed his mind and is going to field the car for Billy on Saturday night. So, but nothing has been officially announced. There's been no press releases regarding it since the Speedway put it on their Facebook page that he was going to be there.
Right.
So your guess is as good as mine. I know a lot of people are just assuming it's in Mike Payne's car. And if I had to guess, I would guess the same because I haven't heard anything to make me not think that. But again, you go back to the original statement when Mike Payne announced that Billy was going to be his driver, it was strictly for the Super Dirt Car Series. So, who knows? Maybe they sorted things out and decided to campaign just one night a week as well as the series. I don't know.
Don't know on that one. Let's see.
So, but anyway, you throw a former champion of the Speedway, Billy Decker, back into the mix. It's been several years since he's been there as a regular. So, they're certainly going to have a good field of cars there on a weekly basis, no doubt.
It's going to be a fun one to watch, and it's right around the corner, just as we've talked about for the last couple of weeks. More attention now turning to Canandaigua as we're 2 weeks removed from their opener. Practice scheduled for next week. They're not going to be doing anything this weekend. Mercer Speedway opening Saturday. The hard clay in action on Saturday with Brett Deo's tour. The Short Track Super Series is going to be over there at Orange County. Big Diamond Friday. Grandview on Saturday. ARDC running Saturday. It's a busy weekend for early April, and so long as the weather holds off, I think there's a pretty good chance a lot of this racing gets in.
Yeah, that's the nice part about the calendar turning to April tomorrow. With each passing weekend this month, there'll be more and more tracks opening up and running.
Yep.
So usually by the middle of May, pretty much everybody's, all your weekly tracks are pretty much full bore.
Right.
You got obviously the tracks up north, Canada and stuff. A lot of them don't open till sometime in May. Oswego, I know, doesn't open up till like the middle of May and what have you. So usually by the middle of May, most everybody is up and running with their weekly programs. And but yeah, from here on out for the next several weeks, you're going to add. Each week, we're going to talk about more and more tracks running.
Yep. Got some messages into Jimmy Phelps, Peter Britton, and Billy Dunn. See if we can't catch up with those guys in the coming weeks. You going to be around next Thursday, talk a little bit about your experience down with the ARDC?
Possibly.
All right.
Possibly.
Well, we'll set something up, and we'll chat again by phone. We're running just about on top of time here. Already gone over an hour again. I can't believe it.
Actually, you brought up talking to Billy Dunn. I'd like to. Can't wait to run into Billy Dunn at some point. Whenever I do run into him again this season, I did see him at Volusia, but he just got back from a week-long track test. I don't know if they're testing tires and testing cars and doing all kinds of tests at Magnolia Motor Speedway in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He just got back from there.
Yep.
He's posted a lot of pictures on Facebook and stuff, and he told me on Facebook that the facility was gorgeous.
You know what he came home with?
I do not.
One of the nastiest colds he's ever had.
Yeah, he probably did.
He told me he's been coughing his head off. We traded a couple messages online today, so I wish him a quick recovery. Hopefully it doesn't bog him down too bad. It sounds like it's more of a nuisance than anything else, but, I want to catch up with him. I want to talk with him more about the season.
His trip and what exactly were they doing. It sounded like he was helping another driver get acclimated to our modifieds, too. There was another driver out there with him. Is it Troy Fleming? Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they were apparently, it sounds like the vibe I get that Troy isn't familiar with our cars, and Billy was helping them get acclimated, and they were testing all kinds of stuff. And I'm anxious to talk to them to see how they ended up. How did you end up at Magnolia? Why at the Mag? That's a long ways to go do some testing. Now, obviously, there isn't a whole lot around here right now because the time of year. But
Right.
why? I wonder how they selected that racetrack.
Yep.
And why? And they were out there for an entire week. So, I mean, I know the Fleming gentleman posted on Facebook that he ran like over 1,000 laps.
God, that's a lot.
It is a lot of testing. So, I'm anxious to talk to him and see what the trip was about, what it was for, what did it accomplish. Why did you select that particular speedway? And when he was commenting early last week when they first got there about what a beautiful facility it was, I had commented back and said, "Geez, I'd love to see that place on 2017 Super Dirt Car Series schedule."
Right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, what the hell? They have a big late model race there every year, the Clash at the Mag.
Sure do.
I'd love to have a modified show there. That'd be awesome.
Nice modified undercard. Make it a huge weekend.
Yeah, that'd be great. No.
Well,
I'm
hopefully.
all for going to as many new tracks as possible. I obviously, I'm a realist. I do realize that our modifieds are regional. I get it. Boy, I would love to see. There's certain tracks that a person goes to. Like if I go to a new track somewhere and they don't race, modifieds, or they've never raced a modified for our style modified. First thing I always think of, boy, I'd love to see our modifieds here,
Yep.
There's certain tracks that you go to and you think that to yourself.
Right.
For instance, last August, the USAC midget swing through Pennsylvania that they tried last year for the first time, I went to that swing. And the first night was at Path Valley. What a great little facility. Perfect for midgets. It's a little bull ring. It's real high banked, and I kept thinking the whole night, it's like, man, I'd love to see our modifieds here. That would put out a great race. It'd be cool because nobody would have a clear advantage because it'd be neutral ground.
Right.
They've never run a modified race that I know of, or if they have, it's been many, many, many years.
Been a little while.
So it'd be a neutral ground for everybody. I'm like, man, I even came back when I got back from there. I even told Parati about it. I said, boy, I wish you guys, somebody would contact that racetrack and see if we could put something together. That'd be awesome.
Did he laugh at you?
Nah, he didn't really laugh. He just, he's like, oh, really? He was a little interested, but, not to the point where he was, serious enough to go call somebody.
Right.
I mean, but, I did put a bug in the ear, you know what I'm saying? Maybe at least plant that seed,
Right.
But that, and I'm sure when Billy got to that place, he probably thought the same thing after seeing what a nice facility it was. I'm sure he thought to himself, "Geez, this would be a great place to have a modified."
What's the name? What's the name that comes into your head when you're there? I mean, I just for what I've done and what I've seen when I go to tracks, I have the same thought as what you do. I wonder what our modifieds would be able to do here. But there's always a driver or there's always a car that you can picture working through turn straight 4 when you're thinking to yourself what a modified would look like when it was going there. It was always Brett Hearn, Matt Shepard, or Tim Fuller. Who are the guys that come into your mind when you look at that track? I mean, obviously, I know you're going to be Homer, and the first thing you're going to say is Jack Johnson. But
yes,
beyond that,
be my immediate answer because that's the way it always has been.
Right.
My whole life. But obviously now in the last few years, I always think that, boy, it would have been nice to see him race there. But obviously, I understand he's not racing anymore, and he's never going to race again. So I do, I don't really, quite frankly, the last couple of years, I don't really even think of one specific guy anymore.
No.
Again, because the one guy that I would normally think of, I know isn't realistic.
Right.
So I just basically think of our cars as a whole. It'd be cool to see any of them. Just a series race in general.
Sure. Well, see what you can do. Work on putting that together.
But I'd love to see a series race at Path Valley. I tell you, that place is really, really cool. It's not the maybe the greatest facility site-wise, but we go to a lot of places who maybe need visually upgrading, but they still put on very good races.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of tracks that sometimes it may look like a hole in the wall, but you leave there going, wow, that was a great race, you know?
Yep.
And that's the way I left after watching that USAC midget race at Path Valley last year. It's like, man, that place is super exciting. It's a little boring, but it's real high banked.
Right.
It's almost like it's kind of similar to a Woodhull, I guess.
I was envisioning Woodhull when you were describing it.
It's similar to that.
Well, modifieds do just fine down there.
It was a really, really cool place. I'd love to see a modified race there one day. That'd be awesome. If they can, they run a couple 410 sprint car shows there a year, so you can run sprint cars. You can run a modified.
Definitely. Well, maybe those are some of the guys we can look at trying to track down next week. Talk to them, or possibly some of the guys that are involved with this Race of Champions conversation. I don't know if you're following this at all with Race of Champions and a lawsuit and Andrew Harpel, and it's getting ugly.
Yeah, it's turned into quite the mess. I know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, everybody can.
It's unfortunate on both sides.
Yep.
I understand the side that, obviously the side that Joe's on.
Joe's got Nicky.
Getting contacted by people who perhaps Harpel owes money to, and the new buyer shouldn't be getting those phone calls, and I don't know. I understand both sides, but it is the problem it's creating is that it's dragging the whole name, the RLC name, through the mud. And even if you're somebody who doesn't really care about what is going on both parties, they just know that the series is getting a bad rap and bad publicity, and that might change their mind whether they go attend a race or not.
Right.
That's the unfortunate part, is that one side may be full on right, but in the end, it's hurting the series.
Right. It's hurting your brand, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Hopefully they can get that together and straighten it out. We'll get more messages off to Billy Dunn, too, and see if we can find out more about Magnolia. But right now, we've pretty much extinguished the limit of our phone battery. We've covered just about everything. Covered just about everything we wanted to cover, at least for this week. But, John, I look forward to catching up with you next week. We'll do it by phone again if you can get some time.
All right.
That's going to do it for this edition of the 31st Lap. We appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with us here tonight for episode number 193. We'll be back here again next Thursday for episode number 194. Hope to see you then. We'll see you there.